I'm going to act like y'all are my students. We're going to do some deep breathing for myself mainly. It's always the hardest thing. It's like, where do I start? So I'm going to start from the beginning, like how I got to this position. So I taught middle school science for 20 years in Floyd County, and I wanted to do counseling. So Jenkins Independent was where I ended up, and I love my job. It was a huge learning curve, huge. Like my superintendent in October told me he was worried about me, and I said, yeah, me too. Um, because I had no idea what I was doing. So now I'm in year 5, and I know a little bit more about what I'm doing. But one of the things that really helped me was a KVEC program called Girls Planning for Success, or GPS. I started that 3 years ago. And you give out permission forms to all middle school girls, and I did an after-school club with them on Tuesday afternoons from 3:30 to 5. And we worked on relationship building, how to be a good friend, that kind of thing. And so out of that, I was able to start building relationships, because when I went to Jenkins, I didn't know anybody. It was a new school, it was a new county, a new job, and I just felt very lost. And so by working with these middle school girls after school, they kind of helped me probably more than I helped them. And so around school, people started to see, me interacting with them, and then they started coming to me more. And it just kind of opened up a whole relationship building kind of thing. And they saw, well, she's not so scary. And so it's really helped my program a lot. So I'm also the building assessment coordinator and the IOP person and the registrar and a lot of other things. So I don't get in the classroom as much, but I want to be more intentional with that, especially now that I'm in year 5. I want to start building my comprehensive school counseling program. I want it to be more school-wide. And so we have a K-8 school, which when you talk about SEL, or social emotional learning skills, really those need to start being taught at the elementary level. I can see a difference that we're making at the middle school level, but it really needs to start when kids are young, which we all know that. And we also know that kids are coming to school without these skills. They're not getting these at home. And so I'm excited because now the law is changing where there's supposed to be a school counselor in every school for 250 kids. I'm not sure if that's fully funded yet, but but hopefully it will be. We'll be able to do that, so that these skills can be taught and they can use them not just in school, but in real life and into adulthood. So my problem of practice, or what my whole idea was, I've always taught, like basic things like suicide prevention, anti-bullying, that kind of thing. But I wanted to see if teaching and being deliberately teaching social awareness, self-management, that kind of thing really made a difference. And so self-awareness, which is helping a child like tune into their own feelings, like knowing their own strengths, knowing their own weaknesses, that kind of thing, what they like, what they don't like. Letting them get to know themselves is an SEL skill that's very necessary. Self-management, which, a lot of kids don't have follow-through, but that's one of the skills I want to try to help build. Complete their assignments, study for tests, stay focused, that kind of thing. Emotional regulation. I'm starting this thing this year called SOS. So if a student comes in and they're really upset, we give them some water to drink or whatever, but then we ask them, to stop, to orient themselves, to kind of look around the room, name things they see, name things they hear, that kind of thing. Once they're calmed down, they also scale themselves, like on a scale of 1 to 5 when they first come in and then when they leave, and we see if what we're doing is helping that way. Social awareness, which is something we all need, think before you speak, take into account the perspective of other people and apply it to your daily interactions. Teaching relationship and social skills, accepting other people's differences, especially in middle school, that's a tough one. Listening to other people, learning to give and take feedback, developing empathy. This week is Safe Schools Week in Kentucky, and that's one of our big 3 ideas with kindness and unity is empathy. And that's hard, to teach kids to, try to be in someone else's shoes and see things from their perspective. Also talking about how do your actions affect other people. So we're talking grades 6 through 8. I teach at a 6-12 school, but this grant is focusing on grades 6 through 8 teaching social and emotional learning skills. So responsible decision making is also one of the big ones. Brainstorming different solutions and approaches to a task. I passed out just like a basic outline of the grant that I wrote. So the big goal was to improve our middle school students' social skills, to help them be able to show, grit, persistence, that kind of thing. So how am I going to do this? I'm going to teach whole group SEL lessons to grades 6 through 8. And right now I'm using class time to do that, and I know that's a touchy, subject because of all assessment and, school subjects being assessed and that kind of thing. So I have to find some time to do that. We do have Leader in Me, so this grant kind of ties in really well with Leader in Me, and also trauma-informed care, which is coming down the pike for everybody. So that was why I wrote this grant. This is the first grant I've ever wrote with KVIC. So I just felt like it all tied together really well. So I'm going to try to get some in there with Leader in Me time and not take class time, so that I'm still working on that and trying to figure out how I'm going to do that. I'm also going to do Tier 2 interventions with kids that need more small group, maybe a small group of kids that maybe their families have gone through divorce or they're living with grandparents, that kind of thing. So specific kids for Tier 2, and then Tier 3 one-on-one counseling. Something that just kind of fell in my lap this year, which I'm loving, is I have a lunch bunch, which is a bunch of kids that maybe are kind of like they don't have high self-esteem, or maybe they're a little bit awkward, they don't like the lunchroom. So after they eat, they come in there to my office. We're also starting for them, if they want to, just bring their tray and come straight in. And we just kind of sit and talk, and they just talk and talk and talk and talk. And so I feel like that's helping them also. One of the things about the grant is I'm going to try this. When I taught middle school in the classroom, we had peer mediation training. And so we had our drug and alcohol representative from the county that came and did that with our kids. And then if girls or boys got into like a disagreement, we would have someone from that age group or maybe a grade higher to come and sit down with them and talk them through their disagreement, conflict, whatever. And I think the adult would still be in the room, but I think that would also help them, because all of y'all that teach middle school, you all know that it's a lot of drama, it's a lot of friend, relationship, peer kind of trouble that gets in the way of them learning and being able to focus and concentrate, relax, that kind of thing. So I'm excited about that, the peer mediation training. So how am I going to know if this works? So we have, in our middle school, we have something called CAV cards where, they kind of get marks or whatever if they have class disruptions or, misbehavior, that kind of thing. So I took the number of CAV card marks plus the number of office visits to my office and to the principal's office from 2018-19, and then I'm going to compare them to 2019-20 and see if the number of CAV card marks or the number of office visits for peer-related behaviors and for friend disagreements, that kind of stuff, if they decreased. So that's what I'm going to look at. The electronic version on Google is shared with me through the middle school teachers, so I'll be able to get those numbers. So here's something else that we do. We use a program called Beyond Differences, where we do 3 programs a year. One of them is called Get to Know Your Classmates. One of them is called No One Eats Alone, and another one is called Online Safety or something like that. It's about online, being safe online. So what we want to do is we're going to do our first one on November 1st, and so the last 10-15 minutes of lunch, we're going to give them extended lunch that day. And when they come in the lunchroom, we have all these little index cards, and they have their name on an index card, and they flip it over, and it's got the name of another kid in the school, in the middle school, because the middle school all eats lunch together. And so this might be someone they don't normally talk to. So Get to Know Your Classmates is the event. So they would go and find that child. I also have conversation starter cards that they can take and pick up and go if they don't know what to say. But we're encouraging them to sit with someone different that day, talk to someone different, try to learn about them. And if they fill out their cards and they drop them back in, then we do like prize drawings and we try to make it fun. And down on my poster down in the arena, you'll see some pictures of some of those events we've had before. So what do I see as being the problems with this this grant, this what I'm trying to do. I already talked about the time, like taking class time and that kind of thing. Our classes are 48 minutes each. So just to do my anti-bullying lesson, my safe schools lesson, I had to do 2 class periods. So I did the social studies classroom, which is, again, that's just not ideal. So what are some of my next steps? Besides finding the right time to do this, I also want to educate teachers. I want to give them resources to use, things they can use in their classroom, like peace corners, stress, self-regulation, toys, activities, that kind of stuff they can use with their kids. Also parents. We want to involve parents and send home resources they can use. Maybe their child's throwing a tantrum and they use an SOS right in the grocery store. So we want this to not just be something they use, at school. We want these to be skills that they learn and embed and use in their daily life.